Happy day students. This is part 3 video of chapter 3 Our Changing Earth from Geography. Right. So in our previous video we started to discuss about the different erosional and depositional activities carried out by different agents. So as connected to that we saw about what is the work or action of water, that is work of river. So in this video, we shall discuss about the work of sea waves. Okay, sea waves again, erosional kind of activity, erosional and depositional kind of activities, right? So what happens? The erosion and deposition of the sea waves because of the action of wind actually gives rise to coastal landforms. Okay, so sea waves continuously keep striking at the rocks, and what happens because of that? It just hits the sea waves, it keeps hitting the coastal landforms, rocks, and because of that cracks develop in the rocks. So once crack develops, what happens? As time passes and under the continuous action of the water over the rock surface, over the period of time, the cracks become very larger, and this results in the formation of hollow cavity like portion in the coastal landforms over the rocks actually. So this looks like cave like structure, and since it is in the sea, it is called sea caves, right? Now as these sea caves gets bigger and bigger, what happens? Only the roof stays back. Can you find the difference between this picture and this picture? Right. So initially the rock structures be like this, it'll be like this, and by the continuous action of water, it leads to the cracking up of the rocks, and leads to the formation of hollow cavity. And again, the continuous action of water over these hollow cavity, what happens? Only the roof just stays back. Now this looks like an arch, exactly like an arch, right? So what happens? This, since it looks like an arch, it is called as sea arch. What happens? The action of wind over the water doesn't stop. It cannot be stopped. It's because it happens naturally. Further erosion to this, the roof, the arch, breaks the roof, and only the walls are left. Okay. So this looks like single stack of coins, and hence it is called as the sea stack, right? Now the steep rocky coast rising almost vertically, you see this, it's not built, it's not been architectured, this is all by the action of the nature. Now this coast rising almost vertically above the sea water is called sea cliff, right? So these are the different action of the waves, sea waves over the coastal landforms. So we discussed about sea cave, and then sea arch, and then the stack, and then the sea cliff. Next is the interesting work of ice, erosional and depositional, right? Glaciers. Glaciers are rivers of ice. They just move very, very slowly. Okay, so what do they do while moving? They keep bulldozing soil and stones underneath them, bulldozing, moving. So what happens? The solid rock below gets exposed one fine time. These glaciers carve out deep hollows, and as the ice melts, when the time comes for them to melt away, they get filled up with water and become like beautiful lakes, okay, in the mountains. Now the material that these glaciers just keeps bulldozing along with its path gets sedimented. Now what is that material actually? It's different. It's like big rocks, small sand, silt. It gets deposited, and these deposits are called as glacial moraines. Okay, so this is the beautiful work of ice. Glaciers bulldozing the all this different materials, which includes big rocks, small rocks, sand, silt, all that. The deposited materials is what we call glacial moraines, right? Next is the work of the wind. Work of the wind, especially in the deserts, because it's a very, very great area where the huge work of desert is observed. Right. Now, if you had ever visited to desert, you would have observed different forms, various forms of landforms, where land there in the desert. Okay, features. Now, all that is because of the work of the wind. What are those? Let's discuss. The deserts, you can see rocks in the shape of, I needn't say, if you observe the shape for yourself, you could easily make out it stands tall like mushroom. If you just look at the vehicle, no size of the vehicle and the rocks. It's huge. Now this mushroom rocks, why they are called so? Because of the shape. You can easily make out it looks just like a mushroom. Now winds erode the lower section of the rock. They keep eroding the lower section of the rock more than the upper portion, and therefore the rocks become get this shape having narrower base compared to the top portion. When the wind blows, it lifts and transports the sand from one place to another. When it stops blowing, the sand falls. You can see the action of the wind. No, it gets moved. The sand just gets blown away. And once the wind stops, it settles down somewhere. Now, this sand that moves up the slope and gets slumped down the slip face somewhere else because of the wind direction forms the sand dunes, which is another feature of the work of wind in deserts, sand dunes. Right? Now, another feature formed by the work of wind in the deserts is loess. When the grains of sand are very fine and light, the wind can carry it even to greater, longer distances. Such sand, when it gets deposited in large areas, very fine and light grains of sand, it forms the next feature of the desert loess. Right? So, one example is large deposits of loess is said to be found in China. I hope you all enjoyed the different erosional depositional activities of different agents of nature as discussed as a part of this chapter. Thank you. Have a nice day.